Now have our international press, and I'm going to call Trix to come in and do that. And I don't know, Trix, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Maybe we should do the Bidawang challenge. In case you haven't seen it.
This is really
there you go.
Yeah.
But anyway, take us through the world press.
We're going to start off with African news, which is something else, Michael. And it's focusing on the election in Gambia and the fallout. So we are seeing here a picture of the Supreme Court, and we're seeing, if you can take a look at that picture, it's the security forces. There's tough security there, even in the electoral places where people voted, because Jammeh has said that there was a lot of irregularities. So the headline for this story is Jammeh's party. Let's scroll down and take a look at that headline. Still, he has maintained that there were irregularities. He has filed a case with the court, and he's saying that he's going to try and find another election, to put another election rolling, just to make sure that he was voted out of office.
Right.
We know there have been delegations coming in from Western African countries into that country, trying to talk him out of clinging to power. And the biggest challenge with this and him staying in power is that Jammeh has a lot of loyalty when it comes to the army. So it's going to be a bit difficult to remember that he took power as a result of a bloodless coup, meaning that the army really is loyal to him. So he would have to actually hand over power for the army to actually, you know, lay back. But for as long as
there's also concern, given that now the army seems to have taken over the electoral office, electoral commission offices, which obviously doesn't give a very good picture so far.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't know whether they are trying to protect the numbers, the ballot papers, that the results, or whether there might be something going on behind closed doors. You would never know. And like I said, they are loyal to Jammeh and whatever he is standing for. And then there's another story from Uganda, whereby they're focusing on the Ugandan king, who has been charged with terrorism as well as murder. They have said that he's not going to be filing for bail, so he might be staying in prison for much longer than...
the hearing is it in January?
Yes,
sometime in January, I think.
So probably up to January, when he's taken before the court and the process begins. So still, things are not looking good for the cultural king of Rwenzururu in Uganda. So this is a developing story. Of course, these papers are going to be giving us more on that front.
Yes, and a correction there. He's actually in remand until the 28th. The hearing is on the 28th. Yeah, because I remember he was actually going to be spending Christmas behind bars. Yeah, so 28th is when his hearing is in.
Not a very jolly Christmas for him. Yeah.
Precisely.
Then we're having the Washington Post that's focusing on Donald Trump. So Trump has displayed an orthodox style in how he makes State Department speak. By unorthodox, this means that all the advice he was given as far as the State Department or the foreign, the Secretary of State choice, where he just did not follow it, because his aides went with some with Mitt Romney, some with Giuliani, who's very loyal to him, but he just went off and followed advice that was not really championed by many, which was Rex Tillerson, and the one person who actually vouched for this guy was former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, who said this is the guy. And of course, probably he's looking, a lot of his picks are very, very business, leaning towards people with business expertise and security expertise, clearly staying true to his campaign messages of making America great again in terms of the economy and fighting terrorism. So clearly he's following his gut as far as this goes, and not following the traditional means of choosing.
And of course, this was one of the main ones that people were waiting to see who's going to be the Secretary of State. But there you go, Donald Trump came in with controversy. Seems he's going to leave with controversy.
I know, So that's what's happening on that front. And also Aleppo has been big on very many of this website. There have been reports of atrocities and murder and execution as the army, the Assad loyal army, just closes in on the pockets that are still being held by opposition rebels. Let's move on to the Quartz Africa paper that is focusing on Gambia as well, and the Western leaders that are trying to get Gambia's president to step down. So it's a joint effort. We had Muhammadu Buhari, you had Ellen Sirleaf, Johnson coming in, and other countries. There's a subtle threat of force being given to that president, Yahya Jammeh, that if he does not step down, they might try and force force him out. But still, they were welcomed. He was very receptive to these leaders, and that was not expected, given that when Ellen Sirleaf Johnson tried to get into the country, her plane was actually denied access to land. So clearly, this was a step forward in terms of him receiving this counsel from other leaders, West African
and
leaders.
A very unpredictable man he seems to be, because like you mentioned, Sirleaf initially was not very welcome. Now he has met them, but at the same time, I think there's a point he reached and he said, no, there's part of the delegation that is not going to meet. So it just seems very unpredictable. Again, given that he had considered defeat, then he changed his mind. Nobody knows how it's going to.
I feel like he was intimidated by the opposition.
By the fact that they had said they were going to prosecute him once they get into power.
Exactly. All this talk of being prosecuted might have had something to do with him changing his mind. Then there's The Guardian that's focusing on Aleppo, and you can see this stream of people just trying to escape the fighting there. Aleppo residents await evacuation as ceasefire deal offers a hope for survival. They are saying, most of the victims being caught up in the fighting are saying that no one is safe in this place. They're hoping that the rebels, people who are fighting against the government, as well as the civilians, will get a chance to actually move out of this area. But still, you can see a lot of women and children are being killed by forces fighting for the Assad government. So it's not looking pretty. So hopefully this evacuation will materialize. But according to Sana, the government-run media, 3,000 people have actually been evacuated, and it is hoped that a tent city will be set up for people escaping East Aleppo, so that they can just go outside of this fighting and just have a safe refuge. It is still unclear whether this tent city will be set up in Syria or Turkey. That's Turkey.
And I was listening to some unverified reports and messages on BBC, apparently that had been sent by people in Aleppo, and they were calling them goodbye messages.
Exactly.
Literally just recording themselves and saying, look, it looks like in the next hour we will be dead. Which was very sad and chilling.
I know, exactly.
Very, very sad.
And the children, oh my gosh, you take a look at the pictures that come out of that area, it's really heartbreaking. Hopefully this war will come to an end soon, and people can actually, the people who haven't been killed can actually go back to living life as usual. Then there's the New York Times that's focusing on how Moscow aimed a perfect weapon at the US election. So this has to do with the cyber espionage. That's what this article is calling it. There was a lot of fake news. There was a lot of so-called interference from the Russia, because Russia wanted Donald Trump to win allegedly. And the New York Times has conducted an investigation into the things that were happening, and the response that the US had to what was happening online, which they say was very slow, that actually did in Hillary Clinton. So that's the New York Times for you. And look at the last one, which is the Al Jazeera website, and it's still on Aleppo. Like I was saying, the children. Look at the child being carried in the father's arm with the IV in hand. So residents of East Aleppo are anxiously waiting for evacuation. It has not happened, according to some outlets, while some media outlets say that around 3,000 people have been taken out of that. The ceasefire reportedly is holding in Syria's Aleppo, but evacuation of civilians and rebels has been delayed, so for unknown reasons. So still it's not really clear what's going on there, but hopefully the ceasefire will still hold for longer so those people can actually stay alive.
All right. That's the end of World Press. Thank you very much, Trix, for that. And before we wind up, just going through our Twitter poll question. The question we had asked earlier is, do you think democracy for Africa is overrated? I have the results here now, and we have 65% of you saying yes, it is overrated, and 35% of you saying no. Let me just read a few of your comments that support your yes or your no. Karanja James says, though at times we, the citizens, abuse it instead of maximizing on it. And I assume that's democracy he's talking about. Baba Sonia says, in Africa countries, there's no clear-cut difference between the government and the election body. Eugene L. Roberts says, definitely. We just had, amid health crisis, our president trashes NGOs who do civic education. Sa Gashina says, democracy in Africa is always under trial. thank you so very much for your comments. That's where we say it's a wrap and wish you all a fantastic and a good day. Do stand by. We've got News Center with Betty Chalo coming up not too long from now. My name is Michael Gitonga.
And I'm Trix Ingado.
And we'll leave you with country facts. And today we are checking or looking out at plow. Have yourselves a good day. God bless.